Yeah, let me start the meeting, madam.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, good evening, one and all. It's very auspicious and a great day for all of us as we are conducting one international webinar. So, the AIMS Association of Indian Management Schools is uh, is regularly organizing knowledge sharing sessions and young leaders inspiration sessions. As a part of it, today we take up one concept, a critical evaluation of working capital management strategies and profitability, a current global scenario, and invited one of the renowned professor of Oakwood University, Alabama, USA, Professor Ramella Ramalu. Uh, um, Before we go into the details, I just wanted to introduce myself, Dr. A. Adisesha Reddy, Secretary of AIMS AP Chapter, and also Head of the Department, School of Management Studies, Lekkeredi Balreddy College of Engineering, Mayalavaram, NTR District, AP. Uh, uh, Association of Indian Management Schools, AIMS, is is a big networking body, a powerful organization in the country, which is having more than 750 member institutions, which includes IIMs, ISB, XLRI, and prominent B schools. It is the body which is always working for the benefit of the management fraternity, the students, and the institutions, faculty, and it is acting as a advocacy body and suggesting the changes in the management education to the policymakers for updating their curriculum and including ACT and all. And it is also encouraging the member institutions to conduct faculty development programs, workshops, international webinars, and national conferences and all, and giving financial assistance to the respective members to organize and invite the resource persons throughout the globe. It is also taking initiation to conduct a Atma test, which is one of the prestigious examination, which is initiated by AIMS to give the admissions into MBA into the prestigious B schools, including IIMs. Also, it is running one journal, the AIMS Journal of Management. The research scholars and the people who are very much interested in the research area, they can write the papers and try to publish their research material in this journal. Now it is going to be the Scopus indexed journal. And apart from all this, one of the flagship activity organizing by AIMS is AIMS annual convention. This year we are planning it in Meerut, nearby Delhi. Usually, the president of the AIMS will take initiative of conducting this annual convention, where all the members are invited to participate in one particular topic, emerging topic, and also competitions, and not only the members and the people from abroad also invited to this particular program and make it more successful. This is about a few things about Association of Indian Management Schools. And also, this event is supported by the media partner Business Standard. This is one of the renowned print media in the country, Indian circumstances, and it is mainly focused on business activities and kind of business news updates uh, in the business entrepreneurship and all those. We should very much thankful to the top management of the business standard for continuous support and making these kind of events more successful. Coming to today's resource person, Professor Ramella Ramulu, who is a very senior most professor in Oakwood University, Alabama, USA, and having a rich experience, more than 2.5 decades in teaching, and also he acted as the director and the director and administrative roles, not only in that university. He was the chief of so many universities in the West Indies, and then he is now the director for business management of the Oakwood University, USA, and his expertise in accounting, economics, management. Uh, with his expertise and knowledge, he is able to publish more than 20 research articles and also present big number of research works in different international platforms, and able to conduct a variety of programs national level as well as international level, and received appreciation and awards from different organizations, and he's having international networking, with which he is able to conduct so many events very successfully. Uh, that's about the today's speaker. And coming to the today's interesting topic is critical evaluation of working capital management strategies and profitability, a current global scenario. He take up this particular concept with suitable examples located in USA, and the present position of the industries with the working capital, how that will be affected on profitability of the company. That is going to discuss by today's speaker with elaborate manner, and by presenting the suitable examples. Um, that's about the today's concept, and I would like to thank the AIMS organizers and the president of AIMS, Professor Sudhi Sharma, and the past president of AIMS, Professor Nandagopal, also secretary of AIMS, Professor Durga Prasad, and Priya Madam, other technical people, for initiating this kind of activities and promoting this activity among the world. And some of the people are connected already from USA and other countries. So let's watch and enjoy this our session. Sir, I think you can start the session. Meanwhile, I request all the participants to be stay in the session, and then if at all any doubts or something clarifications, please post in the chat box, so that at the end of the session, probably the research person will give the complete clarity. Thank you. Over to Professor Ragavalu Ramella from Oakwood University, Alabama, USA.
Good evening, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank AIMS administration and staff for giving me this opportunity this evening to share with you my recently published research work. As I also want to thank Dr. Adishesha Reddy for that introduction. As he pointed out, this evening, I'm going to present on my research topic entitled A Critical Evaluation of Working Capital Management Strategies and Profitability, a Current Global Scenario. In my presentation, we're going to see the introduction part, background of the study, theoretical framework and review of literature, research methodology, findings and analysis, and conclusions. And of course, at the end of the session, we'll have question and answer session. You know that working capital or
as I mentioned,
working capital or short-term financial management is the management of current assets and current liabilities. Current assets includes inventory of stock, account receivables or sundry debtors, marketable securities and cash. Current liabilities, as you all know, it includes accounts payable, notes payable, accrued liabilities. Also, we call it as sundry creditors and bills payable. Firms are able to reduce financing costs or increase the funds available for expansion by minimizing the amount of funds tied up in working capital. In fact, matter of fact is that most of the CFOs in the world value working capital management. A survey of CFOs from the firms around the world suggests that the working capital management is atop the list of most valued finance functions. Among 19 different finance functions, CFOs surveyed and viewed,
as I mentioned,
working capital management as equally important as capital structure, debt issuance and management, bank relationships, and tax management. CFOs viewed the performance of working capital management as the only being the better than the performance of pension management. So therefore, in consistency with their view that working capital management is a high value but low satisfaction activity, it is identified as the finance function, okay, second most in need of additional resources. Now let's see one of the leading company, Berkshire Hathaway, the CEO, what he has to say about working capital or importance of working capital or liquidity.
As I mentioned, cash is king these days, and nobody understands that better than Warren Buffett. 25 now at Berkshire Hathaway. He won't spend it. In my interview last week, in my interview with in Omaha with Buffett, he told me that nowadays it'll take a lot more for him to part with his money.
We will always operate with lots of cash, and other people might have not sold a few things, but I always want to sleep well, and so I always want to have way more cash than we could possibly need under any circumstances.
Right, to give yourself that cushion.
Always. If you call me tomorrow with some deal that requires more money than we have available, that would leave me with cash below a comfort level, I've got two choices: to say no to you, or to sell something, and that may depend on the circumstances and whether I think I can get those sold and all of that. But I am not going to leave a Berkshire ever uncomfortable in respect to cash.
And that cushion, is it right that it's about $10 billion?
Well, that's what I say is the minimum I'll keep around. Now we had $24 billion a year, and as you may know, and through this, even though I say 10 billion is the minimum, I don't want to get close to that. I don't ever want to depend on the kindness of strangers or for that matter, the kindness of banks. That's evident to everybody now that it's not a world where you want to depend too much on others. But I've felt that way since I was, 20 years old and got out of school. I mean, it just, you only have to have your head underwater for 10 minutes once in your life, and it's all over. Now you can have your head underwater for 30 seconds, every day, but you just, there's certain things you can't come close to.
Right.
10 billion is what I want to promise, and in my own mind, I'll be higher.
Okay. Doing those deals last year, are you in any way more sensitive now, though, to maintaining your cash position because you did those deals?
Well, it took down our cash, so anything that moves me anywhere close to the 10 billion, and I haven't gotten close, obviously, but anything that moves me in that direction raises the threshold for what I'll consider. I mean, if we got down to where we were really close, and we won't, but if we did, the threshold would be very, very high for laying out any money. On the other hand, frankly, when we had 45 billion around, the threshold wasn't as high for the first deal as it would be for subsequently.
Okay.
The threshold got to be as you could tell in September, when we did it, the threshold had to be actually selling something I liked. And that's a different bar to cross than just having some cash around to do it.
Well, are you optimistic, Warren, that in this year there will be something that will trigger you to make another major acquisition?
Well, I hope so. Yeah, I mean, I come down every day, and I hope so. But
so we have seen the importance of working capital, or what you call liquidity, in an organization. Without profitability, businesses will find it very difficult, if not impossible, to survive in the long run. Managers are therefore continuously adapting strategies to improve profitability. The existing literature reveals that the effective and efficient management of an entity's working capital components was imperative, not only for the sake of maintaining an adequate liquidity position, but also because of the significant implications that this has for the organization's profitability, company valuation, and shareholders' value. The well-implemented working capital management strategies enhance profitability through various transmissions mechanisms. In this context, the study analyzes the association between working capital strategies and profitability in selected public limited companies in Trinidad and Tobago. This study, therefore, sought to examine two key research questions. First, are individual working capital components significantly related to profitability among selected public limited companies in Trinidad and Tobago? Second, as are working capital management strategies, aggressive or conservative, significantly related to profitability among selected public limited companies in Trinidad and Tobago? To answer these questions, the following specific research objectives were therefore addressed. The first objective of the study is to analyze the individual working capital components of public limited conglomerates in Trinidad and Tobago over the period 2016 to 2020 using appropriate statistical tools and ratios. The second objective of this study is to determine the types of working capital policy strategies adopted by these conglomerates. And the third objective of this study is to analyze the profitability using appropriate statistical tools and ratios. The fourth objective of this study is to analyze the relationship between individual working capital components and working capital management strategies and profitability. Further, I have used the following empirical conjectures or hypotheses. The first empirical conjecture is that there exists a significant correlation between working capital components and profitability. The second empirical conjecture is that there exists a significant correlation between working capital management strategy and profitability. Now, working capital measures a company's efficiency and short-term financial health, as we all know. It indicates a company's ability to finance its short-term operating activities from its short-term assets. Working capital can be categorized into three concepts. Okay, we have gross working capital, which is the total current assets, net working capital, which is the total current assets minus total current liabilities. In other words, it's the difference between total current assets and total current liabilities. And the third category that we have is operational working capital, which is a narrow concept that leaves out financial items and concentrates on process-related items. Therefore, it will include only inventories or stock, account receivables or sundry debtors, and accounts payable or sundry creditors. Finance theory states that managers should seek to reduce working capital or operational working capital to an optimum level so that the firm's financial operations do not suffer. The net working capital is calculated by deducting current assets or current liabilities. According to the working capital theory, corporations are required to calculate profit or loss for reporting purposes. The amount of profit calculated and the cash or liquidity accumulated will essentially be due to managing its current assets, as we all know, which constitute a large part of working capital of a business. Theoretically, we know that net working capital should have a negative relationship with profitability. As the net working capital decreases, profitability should increase and vice versa. So therefore, theoretically, as we pointed out, net working capital should have a negative relationship with profitability. Now let's see the policy strategies to working capital. The policy strategies for working capital can be broadly classified or categorized into aggressive, conservative, and moderate. According to aggressive strategies, management adapts investment or financing policy decisions. In investing, policy decisions results in a low level of current assets to total current assets. Financing policy results in high current liabilities relative to total assets. The idea is to collect payments on time, thus leaving little or no debtors balance. The creditors are also, if you see, also paid as late as possible, allowing company to use very little of its funds. Both policies will enable the firm to maximize its cash with no additional cost. Conservative policy or policy strategy for working capital is the converse of aggressive policy approach. The modern approach adapts a middle road policy position. Working capital components fall into two categories, as we have pointed out: current assets and current liabilities. Okay, and current assets refer to all reasonable expected assets to be converted into cash within a short term, usually it is 1 year. All non-financial activities have at least three of the many current assets. These are account receivables or debtors, stock or inventory, and cash. Current liabilities refers to debts that are paid within short term. Okay, let's say usually within a year. And we are also have seen some of the examples. Accounts payable and sundry creditors are accrued liabilities. This study considers only three accounts payable, okay? And also in current assets, we considered stock or inventory, accounts payable. Working capital management refers to a firm's financial strategies to have the most optimum effect on working capital components. Working capital management is measured using firm's average sales remaining outstanding or average payment period, cash conversion cycle, and working capital ratio. Now, if you see here, the inventory turnover, this is the equation that we use, formula: inventory divided by cost of goods sold, multiply with 365 days. That gives you inventory turnover period. Now, if it is a merchandising, the calculation of cost of goods sold, you know that we take beginning finished goods inventory, add cost net purchases minus ending inventory if it is a merchandising. If it is a manufacturing, to arrive at cost of goods sold, we take beginning finished goods inventory, add cost of goods manufactured, and then you deduct what you call, or be less finished goods inventory. That gives cost of goods sold. Average collection period is calculated by taking account receivables or sales, multiply by 365 days. And average payable period is calculated by taking account receivables divided by cost of goods or cost of goods sales, multiply with 365 days. And cash conversion cycle is ACP plus ITP minus APP. Now, if you see, usually the working capital management is nothing but you have to take into consideration the inventory. We call it as cash conversion cycle is very, very important. Realizing by acquiring the material that is needed, then converting into semi-finished products and results in sales, sales receipts. Now also it deals, because if you have borrowed the money from the banks or financial institutions, we should be mindful that we have to pay interest on whatever the borrowed money, and that affects your profitability in turn. Working capital strategies, as we pointed out, there are 3 different types of strategies. Especially in this study, later we will come to know that we used 2 types of approaches, aggressive and or conservative approach. Now, when we are talking about what you call the theoretical framework, we have seen that it should be noted that while many studies investigated relationship between individual working capital component levels, or so what you call cash conversion cycle and corporate profitability, fewer or however explore the impact of working capital management policies or strategies and profitability. This study seeks to do both. However, if you see, Josh et al. In 1996 were among the first researchers to analyze the relationship between working capital management and profitability, and found a negative relationship between the two. Later, DeLuff in 2003 studied a large sample of 1,009 Belgium firms over 5 years, 1992 to 1996, and concluded a significant correlation between gross operating income and working capital variables. The variables he used in his analysis were equivalent of average collection period, inventory turnover period, and average payment period, which he used as a trade credit and inventory policy measures. The cash conversion cycle was used as a comprehensive measure of working capital management. Gross operating income was used as a proxy for profitability. And if you see the other studies, Lazaridis and Trifonides in 2006 studied a much smaller sample of 130 firms from Athens Stock Exchange. They also had similar findings as DeLuff in 2003. Like DeLuff 2003, which is conducted, the research conducted in 2003. However, they considered more variables in their analysis. The independent variables comprised fixed financial assets, the natural logarithms of sales, financial debt ratios, cash conversion cycle, and the components of cash conversion cycle. In this context, it might be relevant to note that the dependent variable was profitability measures as net operating profit. They saw a negative relationship between cash conversion cycle, financial debt, and profitability. They also reported negative correlation with ACP, ITP, and profitability. And also, we have seen Rahman and Nazar in 2007 analyzed 24 listed Pakistani firms, including current ratio as one of their independent variables. Unlike the others, they had a different measure of profitability. In particular, Rahim and Nazar applied the operating income plus depreciation over total assets, financial assets to measure profitability. They also used 3 controlling variables in their analysis: the debt ratio, firm size, and financial assets to total assets ratio. They used Pearson's correlation regression analysis and other analysis tools to determine the nature of existing relationship. They reported a strong negative correlation between working capital components, liquidity, and debt used by the firm and profitability. But a positive correlation existed between the firm's size and profitability. ACP and cash conversion cycle showed a positive relation when Pearson's correlation was used. It should be noted here that this is different from findings of Lazaridis and Tryphonides in 2006, who reported negative relationship between these two variables. So likewise, if you see, when we're talking about data collection and sample, the secondary, quantitative, continuous, and financial data were aggregate numeric ratio data, allowing easy calculations of differences and comparisons among data values. The data were obtained from companies' annual auditing financial reports from 2016 to 2020, all publicly available documents. Audited financial reports are a compulsory legal requirement of all publicly listed companies, thereby gathering objective and reliable financial data, demonstrating positivist approach. Auditing the conglomerate's financial statements was an annual activity carried out by the two of the internationally renowned Big Four chartered auditing firms, PricewaterhouseCoopers and Ernst & Young. The data was collected from a population of publicly listed companies on Trinidad and Tobago publicly listed stock exchange. The Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange has stratified these listed companies into 10 categories, which they generally be further grouped as financial, quasi-financial, and non-financial. Only the non-financial categories were considered to arrive at an appropriate sample that was suitable for this type of analysis. Considering the specific nature of working capital management strategies, I used a non-random purposive sample from the non-financial category. Given the nature of conglomerates, it was felt that this category would be suited for this purpose, as it was believed that the success or the failure of these companies would have the most significant impact on the broader economy and individuals than the other groups. Initial findings, therefore, would be the most outstanding value in these areas. There are three, if you see, conglomerates listed in the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. Mercy Holdings, Ansa McCall Group, and Grace Kennedy Limited. Now, for this study, Grace Kennedy Limited was not included for the following reasons. It is a Jamaican-based conglomerate whose financial information is quoted in Jamaica dollars. Conversion in TT dollars was therefore necessary. The conversion rates for the years research were not readily available. Otherwise, the same year's financial reports were unavailable when this study was conducted. Unavailability, the sample size was two conglomerates covering 5 years of financial data. Now, if you see these conglomerates, Mercy Holdings Limited is an investment holding or management conglomerate company with 3 principal investment portfolios: integrated retail gas products, motor and machines, as well as other legacy lines of business. The Mercy Group has been in operation since 1923 and has business throughout Caribbean Basin as well as Colombia and South Florida. The group employs 12,000 people, nearly 60 companies across the region. The company scale allows them to leverage synergies and deliver superior growth and value for shareholders. Mercy is publicly held company listed on Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. And when it comes, if you want to learn more, I gave in the company's website, you can learn more about the company and its products and diversification. Hansa Meckel Group is one of the Trinidad and Tobago largest conglomerates, with several diversified companies in Caribbean, Europe, and North America. It is traded on Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange and founded in 1981. Now, when it comes, in this research methodology, I started analysis by calculating the working capital by taking into consideration IT, inventory turnover, average collection period, average payment period, cash conversion cycle, and working capital ratio, and the profitability ratios from the aggregated financial data. I used these ratios to analyze further and generate as much meaningful and objective information from this ratio, consistent with the positivist philosophy. I further extended my analysis to the bivariant description, infra, description and inferential statistics. And I also produced contingents table for selected conglomerates to summarize all the variables, specific data values. At this stage, I performed graphical analysis to quickly learn about the nature of the working capital management process. I determined the trends in each variable through the use of indices. I extended my analysis by calculating descriptive coefficients, including central tendency and variability measures that summarizes the working capital ratios. I further conducted bivariant correlation analysis via Pearson's the product movement correlation coefficient, Pearson's R test, which reveals the relationships, differences, and trends among the working capital management ratio and corporate profitability. This test calculates the profitability of the correlation coefficient occurring only by chance. It assesses the strength and significance of the relationship between each working capital variable and profitability. Then working capital management policy, aggressive and conservative, and profitability. Index numbers were also used to examine the relative differences and trends of each company's individual variables and compare trends between them. These cases, the basis for each conglomerate was the base year was 2016, and the following formula is used to calculate the indices. The index number is data value for the year divided by data value for the base year. So these are the different statistic tools that used to analyze the data. Now let's see the data analysis, findings and analysis. If you see table 1, it talks about working capital component and profitability. Table 1 presents a summary of data values of the variables of both conglomerates for the year 2016 to 2020. In 2016, if you examine the inventory turnover period, ITP for MHGS was 68.93 days, while AMG it was 119.29 days. Therefore, it meant that AMG has taken a relatively long time to sell its inventory than its competitor. The most prominent finding from the analysis is that the inventory sales were slower, which ultimately deteriorated the profitability. The following years, if we examine, revealed similar trends for these two companies for all 5 years. MHGS reported lower inventory turnover periods. Another interesting finding is that MHGS managed its inventory more efficiently than AMG. A crucial review of table 1 and 2, if you see the table 2, it provides index table. If you see, reveals that the index for both the companies showed unpredictable fluctuations. The index decreased, 96, if you see in 2017, and increased to 100, in 2018. It might be relevant to note that the index dropped and expanded again in 2019 and 20 respectively. Very similar fluctuations were observed for AMG. There are several possible explanations for these results. One possible reason for this result is that both companies were inconsistent and presumably ineffective in their management of IT inventory turnover period. Now, if you examine the average collection period for both conglomerates also showed varying results. In 2016 and 17, if you see, 67.49 days, and for AMG it is 55.16. So you can imagine, see here, especially when we are talking about MHGS, 67.49 days, and in 2017 it is 125.78 days. So here we can see MHGS, ACPS were, as we pointed out in the table, 67.49 days and 125.78 days respectively, compared with 55.16 days and 59.26 days for AMG. Lower ACP for AMG reveals that AMG is more effective in managing the receipts of the payments from their debtors. Receiving cash in shorter period is highly expected to affect profitability positively. However, in the following 3 years, if you examine the table 1, you will see there is inconsistency in the results of ACP for these companies. Table 1 reveals that the average collection period for AMG is 72.71 days, 69.44 days, and 60.14 days in 2018, 19, and 20 respectively. In contrast, the average collection of MHGS is 90.13 days, 76.29 days, and 73.69 days in 2018, 19, and 2020 respectively. The lower ACPS for AMG, if you see, showed this company improved efficiency in managing average collection period, and hence possible positive impact on their year's profitability. Again, the absolute days showed fluctuations in this variable on individual level. Further, you can examine, however, this analysis indicates that AMG may slightly doing a better job managing the working capital, particularly the lower ACP is indicative of what you call more management. If you see here, managing the account receivables. Just give me 1 second. Okay, further, if you see here, sorry. Just give me 1 minute. This. And if you see here, average payment period, we calculate average payment period by taking into consideration account payable or cost of goods sold. If you examine the table 1, showed a lower average period for all 5 years for MHGS compared to AMG. This indicates that MHGS generally paid off its debt to creditors over a short period. Without the benefit of further inside information, this may not necessarily be as an advisable approach for MHGS. More specifically, the funds used to pay creditors early could potentially be used among other things for the following, especially the following items would have taken place. For example, purchasing more inventory, increase the sale of stock, or improve profitability. It should be noted that prolonging or increasing APP is only advisable if this could not negatively affect or interfere the credibility rating of the company. And if you see cash conversion cycle, okay, which measures the time between paying for inventories and final receipt of cash from their sales, was inconsistent for both conglomerates in 2016 and 2017. In those years, if you see the table 1, the cash conversion cycles were 57.85 days and 110.94 days respectively. For MHGS compared with 72.22 days and 72.97 days for AMG. In 2018 and 19, AMG showed a relatively high disparity of 82.94 days and 57.78 days compared with MHGS 79.37 days and 57.1 days. In those years, it has appeared that AMG would have been in a better position, as it may be assumed that they would have effectively managed their working capital. However, a closer examination of their trends using indices showed a different picture. There was a consistently increasing trend for MGS with a relatively minimal decrease in 2019. Okay, and you can also see the profitability if you consider the profitability for the years. For all the years were lower with a relative increase in 2020 for MHGS compared to AMG. MHGS generated a profit level of 536,160 and 743,170 for 2017 and 2020, respectively, increasing by approximately 38.601%. AMG, on the other hand, developed a decrease of 32.26 over the same years. It should be noted that the cash conversion days trends did not always correspond with expected profitability trends over the year. So in 2017, for example, when AMG experienced an increase in CCC index by 137 points, okay, there was an unexpected increase in profitability by 105 index points. On the other hand, in 2020, a decrease in cash conversion cycle days of 73 index points saw a corresponding decline in profitability index of 63 points. This meant that as CCC days trend downward, thus the company's funds were tied up in working capital for a more extended period. Their profitability unexpected trend downward or did not improve. MHGS also saw increasing and stable cash conversion cycle index trends result in unexpected increase or improved profitability trends in 2018 and 2019. And lastly, we see the working capital ratio. If you see the working capital ratio of these conglomerates, the working capital ratio, which was a proxy for the working capital management strategy, was to be higher for MHGS for all the years. If you examined, okay, it is higher, okay, compared to AMG, thereby indicating relatively less aggressive or more conservative working capital strategy. The data value showed that in all incidences, MHGS higher working capital ratio or rather conservative working capital management strategy coupled with lower profitability when contrasted with AMG. However, again, the indices painted somewhat a different picture regarding the trends of this variable. Although MHGS working capital indices trended downward, suggesting the use of less aggressive strategies. It is seen that this resulted in unexpected increased trend in profitability in other years. AMG appeared to be more consistent with their working capital management strategies, with relatively small dip in 5 and 6 index points in 2017 and 19. Okay, and again, if you see again, I also use the graphic. Now, when you see graphic analysis, you can see here the blue dotted line. This represents inventory turnover period. Okay, this dotted brown line indicates cash average cash collection period, and then average payment period, and this indicates cash conversion cycle and profit after tax and working capital ratio. Now we can examine in this graph, as we pointed it also in the tables. You can see this is the profit, right? This is the profit line here. Okay, this is the company this is Mercy company, year 2016 to 2018, and also the Ansa Meckel company from 2006. So two companies are measured here. You can see here the profitability is low when the assets, especially the average collection period and also inventory turnover period is higher, the profitability is less. Same way here, when the trends is when these are less, okay, days in terms of average collection period as well as average payment, the profits are more. So it has a what you call negative, okay, relationship, correlation between the profitability as well as the working capital components. And also, if you see the ratio between profitability and working capital ratio, this is the green line shows what you call the working capital, and this one, okay, shows what you call profit after tax. So when working capital is less, okay, the profitability is more. That means what? When the working capital is less, that means you're using the funds you're in. That is a aggressive method they're using, where the profits are indicating higher. So this also established the negative relationship between the profitability and working capital ratio or strategies. Same way, if you see the tendencies, table 3, if you examine, I'll just go through. I know that we are running out of time. I'll give you some more time for question and answers, but I'll just go through this table. Let's see, table 3 talks about descriptive statistic of working capital strategies. As you see table, over the 5 years, the mean or average ITP for MHGS is 72.27, right? And 123.22 days for AMG, a difference of 70.5%, 50%, while the standard deviation is 7.6459 and 7.3698, which is 3.61. Okay, in both the cases, although there has been wide disparity in the means, the standard deviation indicated that IPT days clustered around the respective conglomerates means with a similar degree of spread or closeness. The mean ACP for MHGS was 63.50 days with a standard deviation of 13.3269. These were higher than AMGs in both the statistics, with the latter having value of 58.644 days and 8.269649. This showed that, as suggested before, ACP was a little less effectively managed with a broader variation or spread of ACP days over 5 years. Again, it seemed that AMG had a seemingly better efficiency level with their APP than MHGS did. The former has an extended average APP of 102.52 days with a narrow dispersion of 4 point, as you see in the table 3, 4.319. On average, MHGS paid off their creditors over much shorter period, with these payments period varying much uh, widely than AMGS. It can be reasonably concluded that MHGS has a less consistent repayment policy than AGM. Okay, same way, if you see the mean for CC and cash conversion cycle, the standard deviation was 73. If you see here, 79.35 days and 8.71882 days respectively, compared with MHGS 58.57 days and 16.6319. Okay, if you compare, and MH lower average CC would leave suggest suggested that they manage their variable better than AMG. And likewise, profitability also you can see here, okay, is when you compare the profitability of MHGS is, okay, 402 119, as well as AMG is 600 and 142. And that shows because when it is the working capital is lower, when you compare the working capital ratio, which one has, okay, it has less, right? So therefore the profitability AMG has more, same compared to MHGS, because if you see the capital ratio is higher, that means the current assets are more, therefore the profitability is affected accordingly. So such way we can also, I'll take the last one. This is the fourth table. If you see correlation analysis, let's see if you see the individual IPT and ACP, you can see that they have what you call, when you combined both the companies, there is a strong negative correlation of when it comes IPT with the working capital ratio is 8.866, right? And if you see ACP, it has a weaker because it is inconsistent. This is the only component that provided inconsistent results compared with the working capital or the profitability of the company. Same way, if you compare the APP in terms of combined, okay, conglomerates, you can see, okay, 8.828. Okay, and same way the CC also have a negative correlation, okay, which is 0.896. Same way we can compare the working capital ratio, we can compare with the profitability. You can see here it has a negative correlation of, though it is not strong, but we can see 0.701. And if you see combined, it has a strong correlation, a negative correlation, 0.909. And also, if you see the differences, if you're seeing the level of confidence is okay at 0.05 should be equal to 0.05. But in all the variables, you can see components less than 0.05, okay, the probability, which are the chances less, because it should be equivalent to 0.5%, but you can see all are less than 5%, but only if you see ACP is more than, because it is related because of the sample size or inconsistency, this had happened. Other than that, you see all the components which is less than, okay, 5% or 0.05%. So in conclusion, the well-implemented working capital management strategies enhance profitability through various transmission mechanisms. This study analyzes the association between working capital strategies and profitability in selected limited companies in Trinidad and Tobago on this background. Applying statistical and non-statistical approaches, I performed aggregate and disaggregate analysis of working capital strategies. There is a strong negative correlation between the working capital strategy measured by working capital ratio and profitability, measured as profit for the year. So that as working capital ratio becomes higher, okay, more conservative, profitability will decline and vice versa. Given these results, we can then accept the alternative hypothesis that states there is a significant correlation between these two variables. The first research question: are working capital management strategy related to profitability among selected public limited companies in Trinidad and Tobago has been answered in the affirmative. Mixed correlation results have also been observed between the separate working capital component and profitability. The result of the disaggregate analysis reveal mixed, and in one case, the researcher could not find evidence of an association between working capital management strategies and profitability. However, the aggregate analysis showed a strong negative and significant correlation working capital management and profitability. I further expanded this analysis to individual components of working capital. These results indicate a robust positive relationship between all the individual working capital components and profitability, except for the average account receivables period, where interestingly there is a statistically weak correlation. And at this time, if you have any questions, you can ask.
Yeah, very elaborative and extensive kind of debate as well as presentation made us enlightening the kind of, it shows how you are deeply involved in that particular concept, and made research and find out some conclusion. It really more impressive, the kind of, the strategies, the companies, two different companies of US. The information was collected and try to find out how the strategies of working capital management will influence the profitability and all those. It's really informative, and the um, interesting point. Um, with this, I would like to make the conclusion, and only one point I would like to ask on behalf of the participants, whether this particular scenario is repeating in the Indian circumstances also, or it's only stick on to the US. Professor?
Generally, my observation is it is applicable globally. Same, more or less is the same. But how, because the working capital strategies, my research, whatever the research that I conducted, has similar effects, irrespective of whichever the country that we are in. Of course, it depends upon, okay, the economy. Okay, it also depends upon what type of accounting system that you're following. If it is usually American-based accounting, okay, we use GAAP, right? And the other countries, they use what you call IFRS, International Financial Standards, reporting standards. So in terms of accounting, working capital might be different, and as a result, it shows a different what you call the outcomes. But other than that, I think the policies and procedure components are more or less is the same.
Okay, good, sir. And interestingly, our students also participated in your session
Thank
and
you so much.
listen through the YouTube. Some of them are in YouTube, some of them directly connected. And I hope today is a very fruitful day for all of us. I just wanted to propose the vote of thanks to all the participants, the today's resource person, Professor Ragavalu Ramella, and one more is connected from US, Professor Satya Ramella. So it shows the kind of interest the people are showing towards this concept. And my special thanks to Professor Priya, who is in the backside of the entire program, and the President of AIMS, Professor Sudhir Sharma, and past President Professor Nandagopal, and Secretary Professor Durga Prasad, Vijayam, and other executive board members of AIMS, and the top officials of Business Standard. And the I would like to thank the management and the president of Oakwood University, USA, for promoting Professor Ramilla to attend this particular program. Thank you very much once again. And I think it's early morning for you. All the way you are taking a lot of pains to make this presentation. Thank you so much for sparing your valuable time. Thank you, Professor.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Adishesha Reddy, and also once again the management and also the participants for taking time to be there for the presentation. May God bless us all. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir. Thank you, sir.